Hey guys, we are going to get started on the cardiovascular system. Like I talked about in a couple of other videos, I'm really going to shrink this stuff down so that we can get you exposed to as many systems as possible in these last few days. Okay. So the first one we're going to hit is cardiovascular system. And I want you, when you're thinking of the cardiovascular system, to think of a transportation system. Okay. So the primary function is to deliver oxygen and nutrients to all the cells of the body. The cardiovascular system is made up of the heart. We can think of the heart as a powerful muscular pump. I think everybody thinks of it as a muscle already, um, but think of it as a muscular pump, okay, that works hard all day long. And then blood vessels. We can think of the blood vessels as kind of the fuel lines and transportation network. Okay, so all of the um, oxygen, nutrients, carbon dioxide, they're all passing through the blood vessels. The body cells are all dependent on a constant um, supply of nutrients and oxygen. So that cardiovascular system provides that um, constant supply bringing oxygen and nutrients in and removing the waste. Okay, so it's a constant interchange. As the oxygen and nutrients come in, more waste is produced, and then it's expelled out through the bringing it to the lungs and expelled out. When we're looking at blood vessels, there's three main types of blood vessels: arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries are those large blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. Okay. Think arteries starting with an A, thinking away from the heart. Okay. The walls have three different types of tissue. They have connective tissue or two types of tissue, rather, connective tissue and muscle tissue. And there's lots of elastic fibers in arteries. With the arteries, the innermost layer, so that, the center layer of the walls is what we call endothelium. Okay. Arteries are very strong. The walls have to be very strong because there's a lot of pressure. If it's put carrying blood away from the heart, that's really where it's pumping. So there's a lot of pressure when the heart pumps and it pushes blood out into the arteries. Okay, so the walls are very, very strong. Those elastic walls have to, as the heart pumps and pushes blood, those walls have to expand as that blood is forced into the arteries. Okay, then we have arterioles. Okay, and if you remember, arterio means artery, and OLS or ols means little or small or tiny. So those are just smaller branches of the arteries. Okay, you can see the in this picture the arteries. Go get smaller into the arterioles, and then they also go across to the capillaries. These are the capillaries, and we're going to talk about what capillaries are here in a minute. So the arteries are thinner, or arterioles are thinner than arteries, and they're carrying that blood to the capillaries. So the blood goes from the arteries to the arterioles to the capillaries. Okay. Then the capillaries are the very tiniest of blood vessels. Okay. They're really branched out, really thin. They're what takes the nutrients and the oxygen out to all the tissues of the body. Okay. Um, like all of out to our fingers, out to all the way out to our toes. That's where the capillaries are, all the way out, spread really thin. They kind of almost like a webbing, kind of go out everywhere. Okay. Um, the walls are so thin that they're only one. endothelial cell thick. Okay, so very, very thin. There is a lot of um, uh, exchanging, I guess, of oxygen and nutrients in those capillaries. Okay, they're very, very delicate, very microscopic. Okay, they carry that nutrient rich, oxygenated blood from the arteries to the arterioles, or from the arteries and arterioles to the body cells. Okay, so if you're looking here, we've got the artery, and then we go to the arteriole, and then it goes all the way out to these little capillaries. Okay, those very thin walls, it allows for the passage of oxygen and nutrients out of the bloodstream and into the cells. It's kind of an absorption, I guess, if you could imagine that. Um, the nutrients, when the nutrients get in the presence of oxygen, they release energy. At that same time as the energy is released, waste products, carbon dioxide and water, also come out of the cells and back into the capillaries. Okay, so we've got, that exchange of carbon dioxide and water um, getting back into the capillaries, and then they're going to go to the venules and eventually to the veins. Okay, if you look at the picture, I keep pointing the picture on my screen. But if you look at the picture, you can see that half of the capillaries are red and half of the capillaries are blue. The half of the capillaries that are red is because they're oxygenated. Okay, so the oxygen coming down the artery through the arterioles into these capillaries is red because it's got oxygen. Then we have that oxygen and the nutrients mix, and we produce carbon dioxide. And that carbon dioxide then is what is represented in these blue capillaries going to the venule and then to the vein. Okay. Then we have the venules. The venules are were waste-filled blood, carbon dioxide, and then it flows back to the heart in the venules. The venules combine to form veins. Again, um, this literally means little vein. Okay. And then we have the veins. The veins are thinner walled. If we were to take arteries and veins and compare the two, the um, the veins have thinner walls than the arteries. The veins carry blood back to the heart. Okay, so it carries the blood from the body tissue and the lungs back towards the heart. So that's why it's going back towards the heart and lungs. That's why it's blue. Okay. So it carries blood that it has given up the oxygen. The oxygen has been exchanged and mixed with the nutrients back toward the heart from those tissues. So it's what's coming back up from our hands and feet from our legs back up towards the heart. Okay, it's not very elastic, and it's made of less connective tissue than arteries. It doesn't need to be as elastic because it's not. It doesn't. It's further from the heart, so it doesn't have that strong push of blood out of the heart that the arteries do. Okay. The pressure in our veins is extremely low compared to our arteries. The arteries, it's so high because that's, like I said, coming straight from the heart to the arteries. So there's all that pressure coming straight from the heart into the arteries. When we look at the circulation of blood, I've really cut this out. So this is kind of interesting for me. But when we look at the circulation of blood, we just talk about that the circulatory system is made up of the arteries, arterioles, veins, venules, capillaries, and the heart. Okay. And if we're defining pulse, it's that beat of our heart as we're feeling it through the arteries. Okay. So if I took my wrist, this is the easiest place to find a pulse. And if I'm feeling on the radial side of my wrist, I can push that um, artery against the bone and I can feel that the beating of the heart, okay, as that blood is being pushed through the artery. And that's where we're going to stop for today. Normally, we get into the cycle of knowing where the blood's going and whether it's oxygenated or not. But that can be stressful even when we're in the classroom. I remember last year we practiced it so much. And I don't know that if I really put any of the kids on the spot, if I put maybe Maddie on the spot or Jacob on the spot or JP on the spot and said, hey, what is the blood path through the body? I don't know that they would be able to just rattle it off because it's very hard, very complex. Okay, so we're not going to get into that while I'm trying to teach you from a distance. So we're just going to kind of go over the basic components of everything, and then we'll go from there. So we're going to stop there for today. If you have questions, please reach out. Don't hesitate. Don't feel like you're bothering me. I want to hear from you and I want to know how you're doing. Okay, take care.